Hey, what's going on, beautiful people? If you love biscuits as much as I do, keep watching this video, cause today I'm gonna give you the recipe to my homie Martin's mama's Raisin butter biscuits. Now don't get it twisted, she ain't give it to me, but she did let me try them, and I've been working on them ever since. I mean, the last few years have been crazy, but delicious. I'm talking 5-finger licking good. These biscuits are crisp on the outside and soft and fluffy, like grandmama used to make. So pull out your apron and get your jar of jelly ready, baby, cause it's about to go down. So the first thing we're gonna do is scale out our dry ingredients. I like to use pastry flour when I'm making my biscuits cause it gives me a more tender product. If you can't find pastry flour at your local store, then by all means use AP flour or self-rising. But you will have to adjust your leavening agents if you're using self-rising flour. Next we're gonna add our baking powder, some kosher salt, some sugar for the sweet, and some fresh ground cinnamon. Shout out to my pops for the spice grinder. Next we're going to give it a good whisk so everything's evenly incorporated. After that we're going to take our frozen butter and we're going to grate it right into the flour mixture. I like to freeze my butter overnight so it stays nice and firm and it remains cold throughout the entire process. Since butter melts so fast, it's good to start out with it being extra cold so it can stand up to the heat of your hands. Then we're going to lightly coat the butter pieces with the flour so they don't get all mashed up and stuck together. That way you have fluffy biscuits every time. And in my opinion, you can't have biscuits without a little bit of lard. It's something about that hog fat that turns these biscuits into something special. We're going to treat it just like we did with the butter. We're going to grate it in, then we're going to lightly coat it with the flour. And once we get that mixed in, we're going to wrap up our bowl nice and tight. And we're going to pop it in the freezer for about 15 minutes, just so everything can get back nice and cold. And if you don't have room in your freezer, ain't no thing, just pop it in the fridge. You just don't want it to be sitting out on your countertop getting all warm. Then we're going to take our pastry blender, a fork, or our fingertips, and we're going to cut the fat into the flour so it's evenly dispersed. That way we'll have buttery bites throughout the entire mixture. And if you give it a feel, it should have the texture of damp sand, and the butter should be about pea size. Then we're gonna drop in our plump and juicy California raisins. Shout out to my brother out there in sunny San Diego. Man, I can't wait to get back out there. Then we're gonna give it a toss to coat. Now here comes the magic. Ice cold buttermilk and heavy cream. Don't put ice in it now, but it needs to be very cold, that's important. This is what's going to give your biscuits their moisture and richness after they're baked. Just take a spatula and give it a couple of stirs and a few gentle turns just until it starts to come together and form a dough. Yeah, just like that. And it almost always is a little bit dry, and at this point I like to add in a little bit more heavy cream just to make the dough wetter. And if we give it a few more turns, it should come together and look something like this. Almost like a pale oatmeal raisin cookie dough. And at this point, the biscuit dough is done. Let's get to rolling. So I like to generously flour my work surface, but not go too crazy. Just enough to keep the biscuit dough from sticking to the board. Then we'll throw down our dough and give it a light dusting with some flour to keep our hands from getting so messy. And we'll take the dough and form it into a ball, wrap it in plastic, and place it in the fridge to chill for about 15 minutes, so it's easier to work with. After it's had some time to chill, the dough should have firmed up a bit, so we're going to unwrap it, and we're ready to roll. So go ahead and give your work surface a good dusting with some flour. Show the top of your dough the same love, and pull out your rolling pin, because now comes the fun part. Using your rolling pin, gently work your way from the center out to get a nice, smooth, even surface. Ideally, we want about 1 inch to 1.25 inches thickness here. That way we have nice, tall biscuits. And after the first roll, I like to flip it over just to make sure the bottom isn't sticking, and repeat the process. And we're going to rotate the dough about 2 or 3 times until we get the thickness we want. Using a biscuit cutter, press straight down without twisting and apply a little bit of pressure. Then come straight up and release your biscuit. This will ensure you get a good rise out of each one. And flouring in between, go around the outside edge of the biscuit dough and work your way in. That way you get the most out of your first run. And I know they say that the second run of the biscuits won't be as tender as the first, but I found with this recipe, that's not the case. Each one of these biscuits are going to be light, fluffy, and delicious. Mark my words. With that being said, we're going to rework our scraps just like we did with the first run by dusting it with a little bit of flour and gently molding it until it has a smooth surface and rolling it out so we can punch out the rest of our biscuits.
For real though. I'm from the Southwest, about to make a killing what I live like. Mama say keep praying, saying I'ma live right. Still might, Houston in my city, Yarba nigga back against the wild Rogers like a steel pipe. Feel sight, so the coke, pull up the silly, sprite. Over sack of weed, home probably hit my heartbeat on my sleeve. Nigga had to leave, but I'm bouncing back, going hard on me. Lot of days lonely, nigga went Navy, Dilla went crazy, cried on me. But God said I wasn't supposed to, so I hit the stove, picked up the mic and see the flow.
After that, place the biscuits on a parchment-lined sheet pan until they're almost touching.
That heard my song say niggas don't for sure.
And you're probably going to want to bake these right away, and I don't blame you. But I like to go ahead and wrap them up and store them in the fridge overnight. They seem to bake up better that way. Once we're ready to bake, we're going to take an egg and a splash of water, and we're going to whisk it together to make an egg wash. This is going to help the biscuits brown up nicely. Using a pastry brush, coat the tops of the biscuits with the egg wash, being careful not to have any running over the sides. A little bit really does go a long way here. And I'm telling you, the egg wash really does a good job of browning these biscuits. I used to use butter in the past, but they didn't come out nearly as nice. After that, we're going to place our biscuits into a preheated 450-degree oven, and we're going to bake them for 15 to 18 minutes or until they're nice, puffed up, and golden brown. Now it's time for some of that delicious melted butter. And don't be bashful, get it on there good. Now the only thing left to do is to pick which one you want and go to town. This me right here. Yes, sir. Now I'm gonna tell you what I like to do. I like to go ahead and crack it open. Look at that steam. Look at how fluffy that biscuit is. I like to go ahead and add me a little bit of butter on there. If I could just get it off the knife. Pop the lid back on for a few seconds. And boom, heaven on a plate. Let me tell you something. If you love biscuits, this is definitely the recipe for you. Go ahead and try it out. If you like it, share it with your friends, share it with your family. I wouldn't lie to y'all. Hey, in life you gotta choose your battles, and you ain't lived until you tried these biscuits. Real talk. Anyway, let me know what you think. It's your boy L. I'm out of here. Peace.